Hi, and welcome to our text coverage of A Course in Miracles. We are on Chapter 4. Today we're going to be starting Section 3, Love Without Conflict. And this is, I say this about all the sections, great section, but it gets really good starting in paragraph 7. So I'm going to work us through so we can spend some more time near the end of this section than the beginning. So before we do, I just want to go into some of the things that are coming up for us as a group. You all know we did last year in the month of December, we did the peace practices. So there's 30 different practices to help increase your personal level of peace, all based, well, they're not all based on A Course in Miracles, but they're aligned to A Course in Miracles. And a number of them, probably almost half of them, are A Course in Miracles lessons or somehow affiliated with A Course in Miracles. So if you want to do that, if you go to my website, probably starting tomorrow, you'll be able to sign up for that for free for the month of December. So I'm making that available for free for the month of December. And I know people really loved that last year. So I want to do that again this year. So if you haven't signed up, make sure you go and do that. And then starting in January, I'm really excited about this. This is only going to be for the subscription group. But we are going to start it's probably going to be a 3-month process, but it's not going to be necessarily every week. It's just, there's going to be calls and posts and all of that stuff, but it's going to take a couple of months for us to do it. Really focused on self-compassion. And again, it's going to be very much aligned to A Course in Miracles. One of the things that as you start doing the course, I know you all have already experienced this, and the more you study it, the more you'll experience, the deeper or harder this part gets, is you'll start to see when you step out of that space of love in a situation. So a situation arises and you react. You just have your normal reaction, and it's not a loving reaction. And the other, you feel like the other person's wrong, and you go through all of that stuff. Well, in A Course in Miracles, it talks a lot about how the ego operates. So first, the ego tells you that you were wronged and you really need to stand up for yourself and you really need to say something. And so you give into that in that moment of weakness and you stand up for yourself and you say something, and whatever, starts a series of events. And then as soon as you do that, your ego turns around to you and says, what the heck is wrong with you? Why the heck did you say something in the first place? And starts the self beating up about the stuff that happens. So this whole self-compassion is about creating a pause between not the event and the emotion, to allow the emotion to occur. Somebody was rude to you and you're upset about it. It's compassionate to allow yourself that moment to be upset, but then to create the pause before you have some sort of a reaction over there. And really to then turn it around, instead of reacting to the other person, turn it around and give yourself and fulfill yourself with the love that you need, that situation has brought up in you or triggered in you, or, to really turn that around and be like, wow, that really hurt. I need to go take care of myself. Forget the other person. I need to go now and take care of myself because this event happened. So that's really what we're going to be taking our practice up to. And there's exercises and lessons and a whole bunch of stuff I've put together that's going to take us through that. So that'll be starting in January, but you'll hear me already start referring to that. I know you all know that when I went through the self-compassion stuff, which just ended in September, I spent a good part of the summer going through this program myself. And now I've kind of taken the program I went through and I'm creating, as I'm going, creating a version of this for all of us to do. So I'm very excited. I've been working on it a lot, so it's on my mind, but I want to tell you that that's coming up. So are the two kind of Course in Miracles related announcements. And in Adventures with Amna, you all know we're doing Secret Santa and Random Acts of Kindness, and there's a lot of other stuff going on. I wanted to make sure you all know about that. All righty, so wherever you are, go ahead and close your eyes. And we'll do our opening preparation. So just repeat to yourself silently after me. I dedicate this time to healing my mind and awakening to my true nature. I surrender to the source of love within me and let it guide my way. As I do this mind healing work, I'm willing to be mindful of my thoughts without judgment. I'm willing to look at how I view my life circumstances as helpful feedback. I am willing to take responsibility for letting go of limiting thoughts and beliefs. I am willing to let go of judgments about myself and others. I am willing to quiet my mind and ask Holy Spirit to take the lead. I am willing to let go of tension. I soften and imagine the Holy Spirit leading me into peace. My aware self leads me as I now focus on healing my mind. All right. Love without conflict. So is everyone good to read today?
I am.
Yeah.
All right. So let's do
Yes. Sorry, I was muted.
all right, so
Delayed reaction.
let's start with paragraph 1, and then I think we can do 2 and 3 together, but let's start with paragraph 1. And Miss Stephanie, why don't you kick us off today?
Okay. It is hard to understand what the kingdom of heaven is within you really means. This is because it is not understandable to the ego, which interprets it as if something outside is inside, and this does not mean anything. The word within is unnecessary. The kingdom of heaven is you. What else but you did the Creator create, and what else but you is his kingdom? This is the whole message of the atonement, a message which in its totality transcends the sum of its parts. You too have a kingdom that your spirit created. It has not ceased to create because of the ego's illusions. Your creations are no more fatherless than you are. Your ego and your spirit will never be co-creators, but your spirit and your creator will always be. Be confident that your creations are as safe as you are. The kingdom is perfectly united and perfectly protected, and the ego will not prevail against it. Amen.
All right, so main message in this is no matter in those moments where you are so afraid or upset or concerned that somehow your ego has won and your spirit is getting squashed, or you've made such a huge mistake, or you were just so rude to this person in that moment, and you start to feel really bad about, like, oh my God, I really messed this situation up. This paragraph is a great paragraph for that moment. No matter what you do, you cannot in any way, shape, or form, your ego self, no matter how hard it tries, no matter what it does, no matter how big the mistake, it cannot mess up or derail the perfection of God's creation. So it starts out by saying, the kingdom of heaven is within you. And it's kind of true when you hear the kingdom of heaven is within you. Like when I close my eyes and hear that, I kind of close my eyes and then like I see like a Candyland fairy tale, and there's like a kingdom, and it's like somewhere in the middle of my body. And that's what the Course in Miracles is saying, is you think that there's something out there like, oh, this kingdom land way out here, and I just take it and put it inside me. And what the Course in Miracles is saying is, no, like that you are the kingdom of heaven. You are the creation. This is it. And there's a lot of stuff that I talk a lot about Anita Morjani's book, What If This Is Heaven? A lot of the Course in Miracles belief system is based on heaven is just a mindset. It's not a place. It's not some place we're going to get to eventually. We can be in heaven right here and right now. And if you've ever fallen in love and those initial moments of falling in love, you know what it's like to be in heaven in the here and now. It's those initial moments where it's like everything's just pure bliss, whether it's falling in love with a four-legged friend, or falling in love with a new best friend, or falling in love with a lover falling in love. It's that moment of pure connection and just like so blissed out. And that really is what the Course in Miracles is saying, is that when we all come together, when you connect with another person, another being, you experience that feeling of heaven. And also the other beings you connect with are there to rub up against you, to ease all of your parts that were hurt during your childhood and their parts that were hurt during their childhood, so that you can eventually come back together and experience that heaven again. And you may have experienced this with other relationships in your life where maybe you had a falling out with somebody 20 years ago, and then through random circumstances, you all get back together, end up at the same place at the same time, or somebody reaches out to you or whatever, all this time later. And now you can have this good relationship. Maybe you're not going to be best friends anymore. Maybe that ship has sailed, but you have this like history and this great relationship. And Course in Miracles, everything comes full circle. All the relationships come full circle. So I don't know how I got off tangent about relationships. The point being is that you are the creation. You are heaven. So when we say the kingdom of heaven is within you, you don't need the word within. The kingdom of heaven is you. This is it, right here, right now. We're not waiting for something. And there's nothing the ego can do that can ruin it, mess it up, keep you from it, make you unworthy of it. It's impossible. Your ego and your spirit, it's either ego or it's spirit. It's either love or fear. You can't, you got to be in one place or the other. You can't kind of be halfway between those two. But your spirit is always creating with God, regardless of what your ego's out here doing. It can do whatever the heck it wants, but your spirit is always safe here creating with God. That's paragraph 1. Questions?
When it says that your spirit is always creating with God, what is it creating? More heaven?
That's a good question about what is it creating. It's always just creating in this space of love. So you can choose. Okay, so for example, let's take a not good situation in your life, right? So you have a not good situation, something quote unquote bad happened to you. In that moment, your spirit is still in creation with God, having this quote unquote bad thing happen so that you can grow and heal. Really, it's not about growth, because, remember, Course in Miracles says we already have all the knowledge, so that you can heal, so that you can see how perfect everything already is. So it's creating the ability for you to see the perfection of the moment in every moment. You may choose not to see the perfection of the moment in that moment, but that doesn't change the fact that that's being created in that moment. Did that make sense?
Okay. Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Well, Karen, since you're talking, how about you do 2, and then Leslie, you do 3, and then we'll talk about those 2 together.
Okay. This is written in the form of a prayer because it is useful in moments of temptation. It is a declaration of independence. You will find it very helpful if you understand it fully. The reason you need my help is because you have denied your own guide and therefore need guidance. My role is to separate the true from the false, so truth can break through the barriers the ego has set up and can shine into your mind. Against our united strength, the ego cannot prevail.
Okay.
It is. Oh.
Sorry, Leslie. I forgot I said that. Go ahead.
Okay. It is surely apparent by now why the ego regards spirit as its enemy. The ego arose from separation, and its continued existence depends upon your continuing belief in the separation. The ego must offer you some sort of reward for maintaining this belief. All it can offer is a sense of temporary existence which begins with its own beginnings and ends with its own endings. It tells you this life is your existence because it is its own. Against this sense of temporary existence, Spirit offers you the knowledge of permanence and unshakable being. No one who has experienced the revelation of this can ever fully believe in the ego again. How can its meager offering to you prevail against the glorious gift of God?
Thank you. Okay, so the first paragraph 2, it's referring again to the prayer that's at the end of paragraph 1. The kingdom is perfectly united and perfectly protected, and the ego will not prevail against it. So in any moment that you find yourself either feel, this is really, well, my interpretation of this is when you get into that moment of guilt. So you've already done the thing, you've already had the reaction. And now your ego is telling you, oh, you shouldn't have done that. You're a Course in Miracles student. That's not, God's not going to be happy with you. You've been studying this for a long time. I know how long you've been studying this all year. It's December. You've been studying this and you still reacting like this, and you're just pretty much hopeless. When you get into any of that kind of thinking, which is also a form of despair, which is in any religious circle, despair is the worst place you can be in. When you believe that there's nothing you can do to get back into the good grace of God, it's the worst place you can be. So that's where the ego takes us. God doesn't even like you anymore. That's where the ego is trying to take us. We get in there, this is the prayer to say, the kingdom is perfectly united and perfectly protected, and the ego will not prevail against it. Nothing I can do, no mistake I can make can keep the ego, keep the kingdom of God, or keep the oneness source of love from flowing. Nothing I can do. No mistake I can make. Not possible. And that's how you get yourself out of that downward spiral thinking. So that's the first thing that it says over here. Now, really important, I emphasize this each time because especially as students of this is a very important note for us. We don't do this by ourselves. We would go crazy if our mind is set up to think a certain way, and all we did all day long, and I'm sure you all have experienced it, I know I have, is try to fight that mind by ourselves. It's exhausting. It's like, no, that person made me angry, but I'm not going to be angry, but I'm really angry, but I'm not going to be angry, but I am angry, but I'm not. It's exhausting. So again, over here in paragraph 2, we're asked, ask for help. We're not expected to do this by ourselves. All we have to do is be like, I am really angry at that person. I need something to come in here and help me because I know the way I'm thinking is not right. I know if I go down the reaction road, I've done that a few times in my life. I know how that path ends. I don't want to do that. I just need to ask for help. So again, in this paragraph, we are being told, my role is to separate the truth from the false so truth can break through the barriers the ego has set up and shine into your mind. Against our united strength, the ego cannot prevail. So this is not you trying to do this by yourself. This is you turning and asking for that help. Now, in paragraph 3, we start talking about this whole concept of the ego versus the spirit. So notice it says the ego considers the spirit the enemy. The spirit does not consider the ego the enemy. The spirit takes no notice of the ego. It doesn't even register. Spirit doesn't even know ego exists. Okay, so ego thinks spirit's the enemy because when we listen to our spirit, there's no space for the ego. The ego doesn't have a role. If we're in total oneness consciousness, there's nothing to protect us from. So what's the point of the ego? So that's why the ego is threatened by the spirit, because there'd be no need for the ego. We could see the oneness mindset if we had this thought going on. So the ego, all it can offer is a sense of temporary existence, which begins with its own beginning and ends with its own ending. That's all the ego can give you. You can't be eternal with the ego. The ego, you're a body. You're your own body. Other bodies are out to get you. Some bodies like you, some bodies hate you. And at some point you're going to die and then you cease to exist. That's the world of the ego. The world of the spirit knows nothing. You're always in perfect creation with God. You're always perfectly protected. Your spirit is always intact, and nothing bad can ever happen to you, because even the bad thing that's happening to you is actually for your greatest healing and is being created by spirit and God in a co-creation for your greatest, highest good. That's what the spirit knows to be true. Okay, now the last part of this paragraph, once you have experienced that sense of peace and that sense of oneness, you can't go back. So once you have that, and this is what we talk about, these, if you think through your life, these enlightening experiences, which the Course would call a revelation, that moment where you had that direct connect with the source of love, the direct connect with God. Once you have a moment like that, you can't go back to going, I wonder if God really exists. I wonder if love really works. Like you've already had an experience of it, so you know it does. You may not know how to use it in every situation, but you know that there is this other way that you're trying to learn, you're trying to get to, that does actually work. So that's paragraph 3. All right, paragraph 4, Miss Stephanie.
You who identify with your ego cannot believe God loves you. You do not love what you made, and what you made does not love you. Being made out of the denial of the Father, the ego has no allegiance to its maker. You cannot conceive of the real relationship that exists between God and his creations because of your hatred for the self you made. You project onto the ego the decision to separate, and this conflicts with the love you feel for the ego because you made it. No love in this world is without this ambivalence. Wait a minute, let me hold my pad up. And since no ego has experienced love without ambivalence, the concept is beyond its understanding. Love will enter immediately into any mind that truly wants it, but it must want it truly. This means that it wants it without ambivalence, and this kind of wanting is wholly without the ego's drive to get.
Okay, this is a fun paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
All right, think about anybody you love, yourself included, because it talks a lot in here about yourself, but just for the sake of this, think about anybody you love. Have you ever had a moment with somebody that you love, whoever you're thinking about, where you're just so happy with, like you just so love them. You love every little thing about them, and they're wonderful, and you're so in love with them, and they're just the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then have you ever experienced 5 minutes later how you're like, this person completely sucks. It makes me miserable, and I don't even know if they're friends, and they're so annoying, and all this other back and forth. Okay, now think about yourself. How many times have you been like, I'm really proud of myself. I do a lot of good work on myself, and I really feel like I'm growing as a person, and I really love myself. And then somebody walks by on the street and gives you a funny look and go, I never seem to like get it together. I can't get my act together, and I never am like where I'm supposed to be when I need to be. And like, you love yourself, you hate yourself, all of this. This is all that paragraph 4 is talking about. It's talking about all this conditional love. And then it gets into a really important point over here, which is the ego has an agenda in every single one of your relationships, including the relationship with yourself, has an agenda. So notice when you call somebody up you call a friend up because you want to see them and you want to get together and just hang out. Notice why you really want to get together and hang out. Is it because you hate your job and you just really want to go out with someone and complain a little bit, and you know that this person's going to be sympathetic and give you the listening ear because they used to work there too and they know how terrible all those people, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. You have an ulterior, your ego tries to tell you, hey, call Joan. She's the perfect person to go out with. Because there's a part of your ego that knows you're going to be able to continue to do this ulterior motive. Or you go into a meeting and you're really nice to people because you're kind of hoping they give you the job, or whatever it is. The ego always has an ulterior motive. It's a very important point over here, and where this is the big point that starting in paragraph 7 we really start to talk about. So your ego always has some ulterior motive. It has something you want, something you need, some end game, some hope, some desire. It's not just hanging out there like, Joan, that could be fun. Sure, why not? It thinks, oh no, Joan, yeah, Joan, that's a great idea. Because you know what? Because blah, 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 blah. That's why it would be. So it has an agenda. Okay, so the only way to get to oneness is to drop your agenda. And the only way to drop your agenda is to call Joan. And if Joan can get together with you, then it's destiny and it's meant to be and it's for your highest good and Joan's highest good. And if Joan says, I'm not free until February, then you have no response, no reaction, no negative response to her because it's for your highest good and for her highest good that you guys get together in February because you have no agenda for Joan. And we're living our lives that way, and I'm jumping forward to what the end of this message is about. But this is what this whole thing is about, love without conflict. That's actually true love. True love is just loving the person regardless of whether they can meet up with you or not. True love is loving the person regardless of whether they agree with the way you handled the situation or not. Now, I'm pretty sure all of us have somebody in our life, usually somebody under the age of 10, that we just love. I mean, even when they act up, we just love them. They're adorable. Even tantrums are cute. So we know what that feels like, that unconditional love. We don't have and every once in a while we have an expectation of them, and then we are like, oh, I can't believe I did that to them. I can't believe I put an expectation on them. I wouldn't want them to change at all. So we do know what this feels like, this whole love. I talk a lot about the rabbi and the loving like you love fish, and the story about the man who was fishing by the stream and was cooking the fish, and the rabbi said, why are you eating the fish? And the man says, because I love fish. The rabbi said, you don't love fish. You just plucked that fish out of its home, killed it, cut it open, and cooked it. Don't tell me you love fish. You love yourself. And then you're eating that fish because you love yourself, not because you love fish. And that's kind of this whole ego agenda. We think we love all these other people, but really we love the person we are when we're in their presence. The whole concept of loving somebody else means just total acceptance of them as they are, good, bad, and ugly. And I think a lot of us are working toward that on multiple areas of our life. But that's what we're talking about over here, love without conflict. You don't have to like what somebody does. You don't have to agree with them. You can just love them. And when they're acting like crappy and you don't want to hang out with that, you just walk away and go do something else without changing how much you love them. And that's the way of A Course in Miracles. Lori talks a lot about the we space. And we're going to talk a lot about this in self-compassion too. It's because these are the themes we're going to be talking about. But the we space is, I'm going to stay here where it's about us and what we co-create. And sometimes I might be co-creating with you, and you might go see some shiny object and decide you don't want to play with me right now. You want to go chase that shiny object. Well, instead of having a negative response to you, I can just stay there and say, okay, well, I'll just wait. And when you come back, we can pick up and start playing wherever we left off. I don't have to judge you. I don't have to take it personally that you ran off and left me, and don't you know I have abandonment issues, and this is the third time you've left me, and every time you see a shiny object, you're just going to leave me. Well, I can't be friends with you, and I don't have to go through all that. I don't have to suffer like that. I can just say, okay, I guess we're not going to do this puzzle together right now. All right, when you come back, we'll pick up the puzzle wherever we left off. I guess I'll just go over here and do my own thing over here without any judgment. And that's what this whole concept of love without conflict is about. So let me pause there and just take any questions before we move on to 5.
I just realized how much I expect from other people that I say I love.
How much you want from other people?
I expect things from them. I expect them to do things for me. I expect them to be there when I want to talk. I know exactly what this is talking about because that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Are you there?
I'm there. Yeah, sorry. I said, I did it.
That's all right.
I did it. Mm-hmm. Like, yep, I know.
Okay.
Exactly what I do too, so I get you.
And I didn't really see it till now. So now I got to go back and read that first paragraph.
Yeah, exactly. Remember, your spirit's always creating with God in perfection. All right, Miss Leslie, you want to start with paragraph 5?
There is a kind of experience so different from anything the ego can offer that you will never want to cover or hide it again. It is necessary to repeat that your belief in darkness and hiding is why the light cannot enter. The Bible gives many references to the immeasurable gifts which are for you, but for which you must ask. This is not a condition, as the ego sets conditions. It is the glorious condition of what you are.
Okay, so Course in Miracles, remember the very introduction of Course in Miracles, it does not aim to teach love, because that's beyond something that can be taught. It aims to remove the blocks to love that we have created. So love, spirit, oneness, that's natural. That is what comes natural to us. But we tried all that stuff when we were little kids, and we tried to do all this love stuff, and somebody was mean to us, and somebody rejected us, and somebody told us we were something else, and all of a sudden we said, oh, I guess all the things that come natural to me just don't really work, and I better protect myself from all of that stuff. So what we're being told here is really no amount of hiding in the darkness can extinguish the light anyways, but it's time now for us to remove the blocks to that light that comes in here. But we can't do it alone. So we have to ask for help. We have to ask for the guidance, ask for help to remove those blocks. If we could do it alone, we would have done it already. We wouldn't have waited till now. It would have already been done. All right, Miss Karen, 6.
Okay. No force except your own will is strong enough or worthy enough to guide you. In this you are as free as God and must remain so forever. Let us ask the Father in my name to keep you mindful of his love for you and yours for him. He has never failed to answer this request because it asks only for what he has already willed. Those who call truly are always answered. Thou shalt have no other gods before him because there are none.
Okay, so a couple things to point out over here. So thou shalt not have any other gods. That commandment is more like a truth. When we're told thou shalt have no other gods, it's because there are no other gods. So of course thou shalt have no other gods. There are no other gods. So we're actually being told you are always, there is just this oneness, and it actually exists. Okay, now let's talk about line 5. Those who call truly are always answered. And if you ever tried to call on God and feel like you didn't get an answer?
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, I know you all know what I'm talking about over here. Okay, so let's talk about those who call truly are always answered. So see if you can relate to this situation. You're in a bad situation. Things aren't going the way you want it to go. You decide, oh, I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to get God involved in this. Yay. So proud of myself. I remembered that. So you decide to call on God and you say, God, here's the deal. Got myself into this situation. Here's what I need you to do to fix it for me. So if you could just have him start acting like this and then have her call that person and then have that person do this, I'd so appreciate it. Like it really would help me out here, God. Okay. Sometimes we pray to God like that. Now, let's read this again. Those who call truly are always answered. So when you call on God, as Marianne Williamson says, when you make God your errand boy, doesn't quite work. And when you have any ambivalence, going back to paragraph 4, any ambivalence, meaning I want you to fix this situation, but I also don't want to have to apologize because I kind of know I'm right. So I know I'm right, but I don't care if he knows I'm right, but I know I'm right. So if you could just get him to stop being angry at me, but not having me admit that I might not be right because I am actually right. All of those are ambivalence. Those are all examples of ambivalence. So when you call to God and you say, I have no idea if I'm right or I'm wrong. I don't even know what just happened here. Help me. Those are the prayers that are always answered. When it's not, this is what I need you to do to fix this, or, I want to fix this, but I also don't want to have to go admit my part in it or whatever. You don't have any of that ambivalence. That's what that little tiny word truly refers to, pretty much all of paragraph 4. So I wanted to point that out to you because I was like, well, I have plenty of prayers that haven't been answered. So I went over, I think, so I went over there. And when you say truly, what you're really saying is I want peace more than anything else. I want that feeling of peace. I want that feeling of oneness. Also in here, we have free will. So we have to ask for the help. It's not commanded of us, but that's how the help comes in here. I just realized I have to look at my notes. Okay, that's all I got on that. Questions or comments on that? All right, Miss Stephanie, 7.
It has never really entered your mind to give up every idea you ever had that opposes knowledge. You retain thousands of little scraps of fear that prevent the Holy One from entering. Light cannot penetrate through the walls you make to block it, and it is forever unwilling to destroy what you have made. No one can see through a wall, but I can step around it. Watch your mind for the scraps of fear, or you will be unable to ask me to do so. I can help you only as our Father created us. I will love you and honor you and maintain complete respect for what you have made, but I will not uphold it unless it is true. I will never forsake you any more than God will, but I must wait as long as you choose to forsake yourself. Because I wait in love and not in impatience, you will surely ask me truly. I will come in response to a single, unequivocal call.
Okay,
Wow.
so again, we're really being told here it can't be halfway. Yeah, powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It cannot be halfway. So this is where I said paragraph 7 is where it gets really real over here with us. We have to choose every single thought to align to love. And any thought that we have that does not align to love, our job is to sit here and say, help me see this differently. And you know it. You know it when you're slightly annoyed at somebody. It's no different. You're either aligned to love or you're not. So slightly annoyed is the same as vigorously hate. It's the exact same, not energetically, but from your mind, it's the same thing. It's choosing with the ego versus choosing with the spirit. Slightly annoyed and vigorously hate have no difference, because in both cases, you've chosen fear, you've chosen ego, you've chosen to step out of love. That's why there's not a difference between those two. So anytime you step out of love, you ask to be shown differently. You have to keep making that choice. And as you can see here, it's understood how difficult that choice is. But when we step out of love, no one's going to intervene. God is not going to intervene. Jesus is not going to intervene and say, hey, you stepped out of love. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. They're just going to stand there and wait for you to step back into love, or to ask for their help to help you step back into love. They're not going to intervene with anything that you've created. So as long as you choose these thoughts that are loveless thoughts, as long as that's where you put your time and your energy, there's nothing they can do. You have free will. There's nothing they can do. But the minute you start to say, I don't want to have these thoughts, and this is why the morning prayer is so important. It makes such a difference to just start the day. Where would you have me go? What would you have me say? And to whom? I can't tell you how many times I have thought of something to say and just been like, you just really want to stick it to that person right now. Like, don't say it. Don't say it. What's the point? you think it, so you're gonna look cool for a second. You're gonna look superior for a minute, and you're gonna feel like crap the rest of the night. Forget it. Don't say it. But that morning prayer is what helps you get to that point where you're just like, and it doesn't even. It's not even like I'm so proud of myself for not saying it. It's like, just thank God I did not like step in another pile of crap today. Because I'm spending my time trying to avoid stepping these piles of crap, and sometimes it just seems like one right after the other. So this is what the whole concept of really choosing. It's I want to say one more thing about it, but it sounds like people have something to say because I want to leave with this other point. Who was going to say something? Okay, well, there's one more point I want to make about this, which is this concept of practiced vigilance. Okay, so we know what it's like to have a negative thought about someone and to have a positive thought about someone. What we need to be really cautious of is what the mind's doing when we think we're not thinking. So when your mind's just left at rest position, and I'm not talking while you're sleeping, I'm just talking, you just are staring out a window. When it's left at rest position, is it thinking thoughts of love and gratitude and peace? Or is it thinking, why is that woman walking her dog in the rain? Those are the weirdest boots I've ever seen in my life. What's it thinking? Is it thinking love? Is it thinking fear? Is it thinking, oh, I really should have taken the trash out earlier. Now the trash truck's coming and it's raining and I got to go take it out. What's it thinking when we're not watching it? I talked about this on a call a long time ago because Lori told me this a long time ago, relating mainly to our political, I forget what we were talking about with politics, but she said, every second of every day, you are making a deposit. Are you depositing in the account of love? Or are you depositing in the account of fear? Because you're constantly making the deposit every second of every day. And maybe you're not out there saying something to someone, and maybe you're a lot better than most people about blah, 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 blah. But where are you energetically making that deposit? And I have to be honest, it freaked me out. And she's like, okay, self-compassion. It's not about freaking out, because it isn't about us freaking ourselves out. It's about us taking a little more responsibility about, I don't like the consequences of when I deposit in fear. I don't like it. So I'm going to do a little bit of mental discipline and not keep allowing myself to go there. And maybe it's just the thoughts I'm thinking. Maybe I've got myself so good that I'm not saying anything and I'm not having the reactions and I'm not, but it's like, do I really need to think what a terrible person this person is? Like, what am I getting out of that? And are they really all that terrible, or do I just not like them? And if I don't like them, so what? Do I really need to spend any mental time or energy thinking about them other than to bless them and wish them well and hope for the best for them, because I know that all comes back to me. So it's an important paragraph because it's really getting us to start. I mean, you see what's being offered to us, but we have to make that decision. We have to choose. It doesn't matter if no one can see you. It doesn't matter if you're in your room by yourself and no one will ever know what thoughts you're having. It's just not worth having the thoughts. We have to get to the point where we go, it's just not worth having these thoughts. I may be justified in them. I don't want them. They just keep me from my peace and make me suffer. Okay. Questions, comments, thoughts? Good stuff?
Yes.
That is
Yes, yes, very good.
giving me a lot to think about. It's giving me a lot to think about.
Yeah. And this is really where that whole self-compassion part comes into, because this is not about making ourselves wrong in any way, shape, or form. It's really just we deserve better from ourselves. We are
Right.
capable of better for ourselves. And there are a lot of annoying people in the world. We don't need to notice them. We just don't need to spend any time or energy even noticing them. We had other stuff to do. Got other cool co-creations to do with spirit. Okay. Miss Leslie, you up next?
Okay. Watch carefully and see what it is you were really asking for. Be very honest with yourself in this, for we must hide nothing from each other. If you will really try to do this, you have taken the first step toward preparing your mind for the Holy One to enter. We will prepare for this together, for once he has come, you will be ready to help me make other minds ready for him. How long will you deny him his kingdom?
Yeah, so watch what you are really asking for. And what I would say for this, at least where I am in my practice, is if you are asking for peace. So one of the things I started saying with that whole no suffering practice I started a few months ago, I just want peace. I just want peace. I just want peace. And if you're asking for peace, things may not go your way. And it doesn't matter because they're going to go the way that's going to bring you peace. Even if in the moment it seems like it's going in the opposite direction of peace. What are you really asking for? And do you want to get your way or do you want peace?
Right.
So what is it that you're really asking for? Because once you start to, and once your mind starts flipping to that, other minds come with you. And I actually have seen this too. I went someplace yesterday and I have this experience all the time, guys. People come and sit next to me and they just start talking to me about stuff and they go, I just don't know what it is about you. I just feel like I can tell you stuff. I don't know what it is about you. And I already started prepping this lesson and I was like, it's because I'm doing this work. That's what it is. It's because you can sense that my mind is trying its best to align with peace and you want to be around that energy. That's what it is. When we do this work, other people flock towards us because they're dying for just a little piece of what we're doing. And, you know, my no suffering, my I just want peace, all of that, I feel like a baby in that practice. But given how much progress all of us have made in that, it's a big deal. It's a big deal when you're interacting with someone who doesn't want to win, who doesn't want to get the better end of the deal, who doesn't want to prove that you're wrong. They just want peace. It shows. You can feel that. Okay, Miss Karen.
Okay. Are we on 9?
Yeah.
Yes.
And if I got the order right, I don't, now I'm like questioning myself. Leslie, you just read, right? So Karen, you're next.
That's right. Okay. I just forgot where I was for a minute.
So taken.
In your own mind.
Yes, we're on 9. You're right, Karen.
Okay. In your own mind, though denied by the ego, is the declaration of your release. God has given you everything. This one fact means that the ego does not exist, and this makes it profoundly afraid. In the ego's language, to have and to be are different, but they are identical to the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit knows that you both have everything and are everything. Any distinction in this respect is meaningful only when the idea of getting, which implies a lack, has already been accepted. That is why we make no distinction between having the kingdom of God and being the kingdom of God.
So that's what I love about paragraph 9 is it's like LOA 101 to me. Like, if this is not law of attraction, I don't know what is right there. Anytime you step into I need to get, you have stepped into ego thinking, you've stepped into fear-based thinking, you've stepped into lack thinking. You have everything you need right now for everything you need to do. So Marianne Williamson ends her talks with go forth in confidence and go forth in faith, because there are angels above you and angels below you, angels to your left and angels to your right. That is the attitude we need to have. If there's something you want to do, you have a dream, there's something you feel like you need, we need to move forward in confidence and not wonder if it's time, or will this work, or is something bad going to happen? All of that thinking is it's false thinking. It doesn't even exist. So when we move, and when you're moving forward, because this is what I think I'm supposed to do, because I want to be able to do something else. Like, when you're moving forward from your heart and what you really, really want, versus you're moving forward because you think if you get $1 million, you can finally retire and get rid of this job and be happy. Like, there's a difference between those two. When you move forward with your heart, you're moving, your spirit is co-creating with God. And that's why the concept in the spiritual world, that's why the concept of joy is so big, because joy is your guidance. That's how you know what to create. So if you're creating stuff and it's not bringing you joy, it's not that there's anything wrong with what you're creating. It's just that that's not what you're here to create. There's somebody else who would be creating, and we think this all the time, right? There's somebody else who would love to have your problems, right? And that's fine. It's like, you're here to follow your joy. And I know it sounds crazy, and I know it makes no sense whatsoever, but that's why you're here to do it. It's supposed to sound crazy and not make sense to me. I'm not the one who's supposed to be doing it. You are. So that's why following our joy is so important when we give into that co-creation with God. Is anything with the word getting or lack is ego thinking. And how much do you all love line 2? God has given you everything. Everything. That's just amazing right there. Because our ego wants to fight and say, well, don't have my Range Rover Sport. We have everything we need. Everything. All right, Miss Stephanie, end us out here.
That's my dream car, by the way.
You're in good company. I'm in good company.
The calm being of God's kingdom, which in your sane mind is perfectly conscious, is ruthlessly banished from the part of the mind the ego rules. The ego is desperate because it opposes literally invincible odds, whether you are asleep or awake. Consider how much vigilance you have been willing to exert to protect your ego, and how little to protect your right mind. Who but the insane would undertake to believe what is not true, and then protect this belief at the cost of truth?
Okay, so yeah. So we're being reminded again that we spend all our time, and you all know this is true too, we spend all our time thinking how we need to protect ourselves, how we need to plan for the future, how we need to plan for something going wrong, how we need to make sure this doesn't happen, make sure that doesn't happen. We spend all our time and energy doing that. And at the end of the day, we have zero control of all of the things we spent all our time and energy planning for. And that's insane. And we spend very little time meditating, or very little time monitoring our thoughts, or very little time asking for our thoughts to be corrected and to be aligned with love, which we know has huge payouts, huge benefits, no doubt. So we're being asked again, if you think that this is so difficult, well, look at where, and I'm looking at this section as, where are you investing your energy? Because from Jeanette's receiving challenge, I feel like that came up. It's like, where are you putting your energy? Where are we investing our energy? And if we're investing our energy in how much this sucks, or how wrong this is, or how badly we're going to get screwed over, from law of attraction, we're attracting that, first of all. And how much time and energy do we spend there versus, I know everything's happening for my highest good. I know that this situation is actually the one situation I need to heal this. I mean, can you imagine thinking that when something bad happens? Like, yes, this is what I needed to happen for me to finally heal. And yet we know, looking back on our lives, when we look at it from a little bit of distance, we know that those terrible things were the things we needed to heal.
Yeah.
We know how much we grew as a person from those horrible things. Not that we want to go through it again, but we see the gift in it. So we know this stuff works, and we're just being reminded of that here in paragraph 10. So questions, thoughts, comments? Ahas?
Lot of those.
This lesson was full of them, huh?
Yeah, this is good.
Very good. Yeah, this was a good one. There's a lot. This was full of good stuff.
I think chapter 4 is going to be a pivotal chapter.
Yeah.
All right, so we will pick up next week. We'll still be on Tuesday next week. 4:4. This need not be. This need not be. Sounds exciting. So I'm going to go ahead and end the recording, and then I can stay on. We can talk about anything you all want to talk about. So once